Hi, my name is Mel, and I'm going to be talking today about Pauline Hanson. A lot of people, younger people especially, are all for Pauline Hanson and One Nation Party because they think she'll work in their interest. She's anti immigrant and refugee, and immigrants and refugees are not the problem. So I want to talk about, look, any criticism of Pauline Hanson often centres on the gap between her so-called Aussie battler image and her actual, what appears to be her actual parliamentary voting record. So while she generally campaigns on representing ordinary Australians, data from her time in the Senate shows that she might frequently vote alongside a Liberal National Coalition and corporate interests on economic issues, often opposing any measures championed by unions and working class advocates. So, here are some ways that she appears to, at least to me, on the research I've done, that her record contradicts whatever her rhetoric says based on her parliamentary actions up to mid 2026. So, voting against worker pay and protection. So, despite claiming to support workers, it appears that Pauline Hanson has consistently voted against legislation designed to improve wages and security. Stripping rights from minors, June 2026. It appears that Pauline Hanson and One Nation announced that they would vote to remove rights won by casual coal miners, supporting a loophole that will allow companies to pay casuals less than permanent staff for the same work. Opposing wage increases. It appears she has voted against increasing the minimum wage and supporting the freezing of penalty rates, arguing that higher wages hurt the businesses. No, they don't. Businesses and corporations are making money hand over fist at the expense of any workers. Blocking same job, same pay. She appears to oppose laws designed to stop labour hire companies from undercutting the wages of permanent employees, a practice that heavily affects blue-collar industries. Industrial manslaughter. She has voted, apparently, against criminalising industrial manslaughter and wage theft, protections designed to keep workers safe and ensure they are paid what they owed. So it also appears she has sided with billionaires and corporations. There are critics who point out that while Hanson appears to attack elites, her voting alignment appears to often favour the wealthy. So she's like corporate tax cuts. It appears she has supported tax cuts for large corporations while voting against measures to decrease fossil fuel subsidies, effectively prioritising mining profits over public revenue, or the public good for that matter. Billionaire alignment. She appears to maintain, and she's been pretty public about this, it seems, to close political alliances with billionaires like Gina Reinhardt. Critics often argue this relationship seems to influence her votes against mining royalties and environmental protections that would tax the wealthy. Banking Royal Commission, and she apparently initially she voted against establishing a royal commission into the banking sector, which exposed massive rip-offs of ordinary people, only changing her tune later after significant public pressure. Cutting services that battlers actually rely on. It appears her voting record includes opposing funding for essential services that working class families depend on to manage the cost of living. Housing affordability. It appears that she has voted almost consistently against federal action on public housing and measures to improve housing affordability, such as the Help to Buy scheme. Healthcare and the NDIS. Apparently, she has supported cuts to the National Disability Insurance Scheme eligibility, a vote against expanding Medicare coverage in certain areas. Education and TAFE. She's apparently voted against making TAFE fee-free and against increasing funding for public schools, while supporting the increase of HECS debt indexation, which adds to the final burden of any students and graduates, and it's gonna disencourage anyone from going to get educated, which I think is probably, in my opinion, the point. She also does cultural war distraction. There are some political analysts that argue that Hanson uses cultural war issues to try and distract from her economic record. Blame shifting. She frequently blames immigrants and minorities for economic problems, like housing shortages and lack of jobs, rather than it being a corporate problem, a big banking problem, and a government problem. It is not immigrants and refugees' fault. It's got nothing to do with them. This is what's called corporate greed. Corporations still want to make profit. They don't give a shit about the people or the environment or any of us, and it doesn't appear that she does either. All right? Which directs working class. She's using this, blame shifting against, immigrants and minorities, which directs working class anger away from, corporate profiteering and policy failures. Symbolic versus material. So while she appears to make loud symbolic stands like motions, it's okay to be white or wearing a burqa in Parliament, which freaking hell, if you don't see how wrong that is, I do not know what to tell you. Sure, yeah, it's okay to be white, but we just also need to be acknowledging that people of colour, brown and black people, have a much harder time of it, and we're the ones making it harder for them. I mean, if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. Look, everybody's suffering right now because, the oligarchs of the world are basically screwing us all over. And she's on the train she appears to be on the train that wants to screw everybody over. She doesn't care about you. All right. These actions do not materially improve the bank balances or job security of voters. They don't. So, going around saying it's okay but white wearing a burqa in Parliament, that's just her being an absolute dickhead and showing, trying to be, look, let's all hate people in burqas sort of crap, or Islamophobic. And seriously, what are we, the fashion police? I mean, I might not like a burqa or a hijab or whatever else. I might not like whatever else somebody wears. Guess what? It's none of my fucking business. We have the freedom to wear whatever the hell we like. We should also have the freedom not to wear anything at all if that's what we want. Why do you care what somebody else wears? We should be supporting people and freedom. We shouldn't be bigoted or hated or have goes at people who wear something that we might not wear ourselves. I mean, I've offered to go with anybody who wears like a yarmulke or a burqa or hijab or whatever else. If they want to go out, I will go with them. I'm not going to criticise them. I'll support them. You know what? I won't let anyone hassle them or be horrible to them because it's not going to fix the problem. Can we spend less time hating and actually fixing the goddamn problems that we've got? I mean, we're in we're coming up to a severe freshwater storage issue, right? We're not running out of water, but we're running out of fresh water. All the rain is falling in the wrong places. We're probably facing an economic recession, if not complete depression. I mean, the corporations are they're putting people out of work with AI. So this is a summary of what appears to be her Senate voting trends. So data that I have found, and I can only go by what I've got, so I hope this is correct. From parliamentary monitoring sites like They Vote For You highlight these trends. Voted consistently against increasing housing affordability, increasing Aboriginal land rights, well, there you go, and increasing transparency of political donations. Well, how about we stop all political donations? No freaking money in politics, and stop the massive amount of pay they're all getting. They should earn 80,000, which is still more than most workers earn here. What are we doing? I mean, seriously, she has voted consistently for drug testing welfare in recipients, increasing the difficulty of getting citizenship, and restricting the rights of trade unions. So, look, drug testing of welfare recipients would cost far more than actually helping welfare. I mean, I'm on welfare, I'm on disability, I take prescribed medications, and if people are using, I mean, not many people on welfare can afford illicit drugs, I'm here to tell you. But if they're on that, they need help. They don't need judgment. They need to go to a detox center and get them off and try and help them get back into some sort of function. How about we increase jobs? We increase worker rights. How about we dismantle corporations and we put committees of workers in charge that make sure that all the actions of the company work for every employee, and we increase parental leave, we increase time off. People should probably only work 4 days a week. There are a lot of things we can do to make life. We should have a lot more free public housing, electricity, and all that should be right. We can build massive solar panels and wind turbines and any other non-fossil fuel stuff to fix a lot of the problems. We are letting the wealthy and the rich and we live in a corporatocracy. And they've got us all blaming the people with nothing, like, the trans, the gay, the freaking immigrants, refugees, Aboriginals. Stop blaming people and start blaming the system, because that's what all these uber wealthy people want, is to blame each other, all hate each other, rather than actually take any action to stop them. She's also tends to be, in my opinion, very pro-Israel. She also tends to be, in my opinion, very racist and also anti-LGBTQIA+. So her public immigration, she rose to prominence in 1996 by declaring in her maiden parliamentary speech that Australia was in danger of being swamped by Asians. Oh, good grief. Over the decades, her rhetoric shifted to other minority groups, but the underlying themes are all the same, right? And the anti-Islam campaigns. She has campaigned extensively against halal certification, built mosque, and Islamic migration. In 2017, and other times, she's worn a burqa to the Senate quite a few times to push for a ban on full faith veils. I mean, seriously, we need to have a secular government where no religion, not atheism, not Islam, Christianity, Judaism, bloody whatever, has any say, right? Secular means it's for everyone. We also need to start ensuring LGBTQIA and women's rights in these religions. We need to start saying, if you're going to practice whatever religion or ideology you've got, you have to have, women have to be equal, not separate equal to men, right? And LGBTQIA plus have to be accepted. If they're not prepared to do that, then I say, fuck them. They can either get the fuck out or change. Yeah, and that is just, I mean, why should bigotry be allowed? I don't give a shit what their holy books say. Bigotry and, like just saying white cis het men should be in charge, bullshit. We need to have a committee of all different people who are all different genders, sexuality, ethnic origins, religions. We need to work out what's going to work for everybody. And you know what? Immigrants and refugees actually make this country better. I mean, if you're not Indigenous, then you are either an immigrant or refugee or the child or whatever of an immigrant and refugee. So you just want people to be white. I mean, Australia was never fucking white. We have black history and we suppress Aboriginals here and we treat them like crap, and that's not right. So she's targeted Indigenous Australians. Apparently, it appears to me she has consistently voted the Aboriginal tent embassy, native title rights, and the voice to Parliament. Apparently, she famously walked out of the Senate during an acknowledgement of country, calling it divisive. No, what is divisive is her. Okay, recognising them and allowing them acknowledgement of country is not divisive. That's recognising they were here before us and they're still here, and we need to start respecting their welcome to country and acknowledgement of country. We need to start treating them like they actually matter, you know? And she's done this, as I said, okay to be one. Like, seriously, yeah, it's okay. Doesn't mean you get to be in charge or a bigot. Okay? Now, not every white person is a pile of shit, but a fair minority are. There's a lot of racism and there's all this, whites deserve this bullshit. No, I understand everybody's suffering now, but sitting there targeting people because they've got a different skin colour or a different culture or whatever, religion or whatever the hell, it's not okay. I mean, seriously, we need to actually fix the problems, not blame each other. And yeah, okay, the white people in Australia historically have done a lot of really messed up shit. Doesn't mean we're responsible for that. It means we have got to also be responsible now and acknowledge that quite often being white skinned means you do have a privilege that often you don't see. It doesn't mean you're a pile of shit necessarily, but you need to recognise that and we should improve and make it easy to become citizens, because we should want that, seriously. LGBTQIA plus rights. So apparently Hanson and One Nation have consistently opposed legislative advancements for LGBTQIA plus Australians, focusing heavily on social conservatism, which is just bullshit. Marriage equality. Apparently, she voted against legalising same-sex marriage in 2017, despite the national plebiscite showing overwhelming public support for it. Why shouldn't people be able to have a same-sex marriage? If we want to ban marriage altogether and just have domestic partnerships, okay. But if you're going to have marriage as the thing, then you're going to have to allow, and it should be 18 plus only marriage. I think it should probably be 21 plus. But if people of the same sex want to get married, what's the problem? I mean, obviously, that's not going to cause any more problem than a man and woman getting married, right? It's really not. It's not going to be a threat to anyone else's marriage. Obviously, incestuous marriage, and I don't mean just cousin to cousin, although that could be problematic, but, like an adult parent and their child or something like that, or brother and sister, that could cause problems because you can't rule out there some, where they've been groomed or their ability to, there could be a lot of issues there, and I think we all know that. So, same-sex marriage isn't going to lead to all sorts of, horrible. It doesn't hurt anyone else, whereas, incestuous marriages do hurt people, right? There is a problem with that, and no, you can't go and marry your dog because it doesn't. Same-sex marriage is not the same thing, and you know that. Transgender rights. She apparently has introduced motions aiming to ban gender-affirming care for minors and has spoken against trans women participating in female sports and using female design spaces. Guess what? Trans women are women. They are not men dressed up. They are women. Trans women. Hence, it can be a cis woman, intersex woman, and a trans woman. If they're a woman, And gender is not the same as biological sex, guys. I mean, I don't know what to say to you. And also, yeah, minors do need gender affirming care. Well, a great deal of it is counselling. Guess what? Trying to help them come to terms with the way they feel inside. It also might mean social transition, right? To help them, like they can dress how they, like in whatever sort of, have their hair or whatever they want to do and be called, and the pronoun should be accepted. Because guess what? Not doing that ends in a lot of trans youth suicide and self-harm because they can't change the way they are. You were born trans or cis. And don't tell me you can't. I mean, like, seriously. If kids can't know their gender, then we should all be treating them like they, them. If you're going to say they can know they're a boy or a girl, they can also know they're not. So go away. And trans women, yeah, they should participate in female sports and use female design, but it's 'cause they're women. Stop with the bloody prejudice. Education policy. She's apparently campaigned to ban the Safe Schools program and similar anti-bullying initiatives, arguing that schools should not teach gender diversity or LGBTQIA plus awareness. Oh yeah, let's not teach our kids to be more tolerant and welcoming. Let's not teach our kids not to bully. Let's not teach our kids how to be empathetic or compassionate or to appreciate people who are different to them. Let's all, work on making them bigoted little things so we could continue the bigotry and hatred against everyone like, what's been happening. So let's not actually try and get people to accept that people are different. Humans can be wonderful in the diversity, but the hatred and bigotry of people who are different is got to stop. And the capitalism. We are using like about 1.7 Earth resources every year. We're acting like we don't have any effect on the Earth, that these resources are infinite. They're not. We claim to be the top of the pyramid and just go through destroying ecosystems, destroying and making species extinct, and I mean, like, that's not sustainable. We've got to start looking at the fact that we are part of the circle of life. We are animals, we are primates, we're apes. Deal with it. I mean, seriously. Stance on Israel. Hanson's foreign policy appeared to generally align with right-wing nationalism, which includes a strong diplomatic support for Israel, which I don't think could be at all supported now. Okay, Israel's government is committing genocide. Gaza and Lebanon and Iran and probably Syria, they are acting like they are being very destructive to everybody else around them. They do not have the right to do that, and we should not be supporting their government doing that. Now, that does not mean in our country we can support Jews and Muslims and Christians and Hindus and whoever else, atheists, and make sure no one is bullied or harassed. But being anti-Zionist does not mean anti-Semitic. And I'm sick to death of Israel trying to equate the two, because guess what? Israel's actions are the ones causing all the anti-Jewish settlements. Anti-Jewish sentiments, sorry. They are the ones responsible for a lot of this hatred and fear, because they're going out doing horrendous shit. I mean, seriously, got to stop doing it. She's abolished, apparently. She's campaigned to replace the independent industrial empire with a body that critics would argue favours employers. Yeah, well, that's what she's not for workers. She's not for the average person. She's also seems to policies aim to severely limit union access to workplaces, apparently making industrial action illegal in many circumstances and deregistering unions that not comply. So she's not for the workers, she's for the corporations, the rich and the greedy, cutting penalty rates. So she apparently supports removing mandatory weekend and public holiday penalty rates, arguing they stifle business growth. Businesses and corporations are making money over a fist. The CEOs have been paid like extremely excessive wages while the average worker is getting paid very little. That's absurd. We've got to demolish any corporations, any businesses should be run by the workers, for the workers. And the businesses have got to show they're helping the community and they are environmentally friendly. We have got to start using non-fossil fuel energy. So she's also wants to mess, apparently, with welfare and social safety nets. Apparently she's advocates for cashless debit cards for all welfare recipients, a system criticised for taking away financial autonomy and enriching the private corporations that run the card or manage the card. Yeah, definitely. Compulsory drug testing. She has pushed and pushes to force all welfare recipients into mandatory drug tests, which would cost a fortune, is ineffective. And why don't we just pay welfare recipients enough so they're not struggling hand to mouth? If they are using illicit drugs, they need to be helped, not judged. It's only going to increase poverty and crime, because if people are poor, turning to crime is basically their only option. Opposing job seeker increases. Yeah, well, that's typical. And she's also apparently in the past proposed towards a flat income tax. So this would significantly lower high earners, taxes for high earners, while increasing the relative burden on lower income workers. Health and climate change. She also wants to privatise, apparently, public assets. Health and climate change, she also apparently wants to or advocates for completely abandoning climate targets. Oh yeah, because we're not in an absolute crisis where a super El Nino looks like it's coming. The AMOC, which is the Atlantic Meridian Ocean Current, it's this big current that's apparently going to collapse. Our glaciers and ice packs are melting like there's no tomorrow. We're probably looking at a lot of drought and famine or flooding, way more severe storms and a lot more deaths. So yeah, great. Anti-vaccine mandates. Apparently she's also campaigned against public health mandates and vaccination programs. Look, which undermines community immunity and public safety. She also wants to change electoral and governance systems, wants to abolish compulsory voting, which we've seen in America does not work and really only supports the right-wing fascist movement, which is it seems to me that's what she wants. Reducing the size of parliament. She's apparently campaigns to cut the number of politicians. Yeah, look, she buddies up, apparently, to Gina Reinhardt and the ultra-rich. Political favours, she does those. And her personal wealth and assets appear to be quite significant. Property portfolio, just for instance, parliamentary disclosures show Hanson owns multiple valuable properties. Political salary and allowance. She receives a base salary of over $240,000 per year, plus generous taxpayer-funded allowances, travel budgets, and lifelong parliamentary pension scheme. So look, any thought that you had that she's for you, she's not. So please, we've got to start electing and putting in, or we actually have to take over the government and put in democratic socialists. We need to take like take down corporations and have a system that helps everybody, not just the people that exploit. Thanks.